10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
It's Heartbeat, Alaska. It's Heartbeat, Alaska. You can hear it from Sitka to Barrow. Gather around for Jeannie's show. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo.
Hello everyone and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. Native news and information. Last week we promised you part 2 of the fishing news from Southeast Alaska, and today we travel to Kake, Alaska and find out how old Plinkett recipes are the recipe for success. I'll be back with Kake, Alaska right after this. Heartbeat Alaska is pleased to announce a brand new official hotel. We're brought to you now by Millennium Alaskan Hotel, the official hotel of Heartbeat Alaska. And
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
Hi, I'm Mark from Scan Home, and we are proud to sponsor Heartbeat Alaska.
Scan Home, serving all of Alaska's home and office furnishing needs. Thank you, Scan Home, for making Heartbeat Alaska possible.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Brown's Electric Lighting Gallery. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support of Heartbeat Alaska.
We've been covering businesses, families, and individuals since before Alaska was a state. And we'll keep doing it until the glaciers melt on Mount McKinley. Primera Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alaska. We're here. We're with you.
Welcome back. The Plinketts in Kake, Alaska have a long tradition of living off the sea, from subsistence to now commercial fishing. They've had to adapt to change, and nowadays, with farmed fish, they're having to adapt even more. Let's take a look at Kake, Alaska, and see how they're adapting to this change. "20 years later, they rebuilt their village here on the northwest corner of Kupernoff Island. This was not the first time the Kake survived an assault from the outside, and it wouldn't be the last. For centuries, the Kakes had a reputation for strength, tenacity, and leadership. They quickly adapted to a changing world. Kake was the first native Alaskan village to earn U.S. citizenship for its residents. Traditional fishermen from the village began selling their fish, adapting to a new cash economy. The cannery here opened in 1912. Around the same time, Canneries were opening all over southeast Alaska. Like most seafood, the quality of salmon begins to decrease quickly once it's caught. Canning was the most efficient way to preserve the fish for the trip to far away markets. As the years went by, villages became more and more dependent on the canning business. From processors to boat owners to deckhands, everyone was working hard and making good money. Consumers understood the work involved and were willing to pay a premium for salmon. But then, someone thought of a cheaper way to make salmon.
Salmon farms today are well run. Fish are kept in their pens and raised and taken to market. That's our business.
This is Vivian Krause. She was one of many people in the salmon industry that traveled to Juneau recently for Salmon for Success. The Central Council of Tlingit and Haida Indians of Alaska held the meeting to find ways to save the families and villages that depend on salmon fishing. Vivian works in the salmon farming industry, the industry these fishermen blame for the low price of salmon on the world market. Duane Wilson, a fisherman from Haines, explains.
When you flood a market full of fish that don't cost much, it takes away from the fish that would actually be better for you.
Keeping his sense of humor even in hard times, Jones Hotch Jr. explains the situation this way.
Someone said if you won $1 million lottery, that he'd commercial fish until he was broke. And that's almost how it is now.
I want you to know I'm not here because I'm the one that drew the short stick. I'm actually here because many people like me and our company understand that you have concerns here in Alaska about salmon farming. And so part of what I'm here today to do is to share with you kind of how we farm, who we are, what we do, and perhaps also to answer some of your questions.
Vivian's presentation was closely watched, and there were a lot of questions afterwards.
How does fish farming benefit commercial fishermen?
While there is no question that the flood of farm-raised salmon is the major reason for plummeting salmon prices, there are plenty of questions about the environmental impacts of salmon farms. The basic idea behind salmon farming is to hang huge nets in the ocean and raise fish in them. Vivian showed slides of her company's fish farms on the coast of British Columbia, just south of Alaska. Most salmon farms in British Columbia raise Atlantic salmon because they grow faster and resist disease. But they are also more aggressive, and if they escape, they could kill off wild runs of salmon by taking over their spawning grounds.
Now in Canada there's an interesting legal situation in that under the Constitution, Aboriginal rights are protected.
Eamon Murphy is also from British Columbia. He's an attorney that works with Native groups there.
There have been thousands upon thousands of Atlantic salmon that have escaped over the past dozen years or so into BC waters, and they've actually discovered now that the Atlantic salmon have managed to spawn and become resident in BC streams.
Actually, over 1 million Atlantic salmon have already escaped from farms in British Columbia, and hundreds have been caught in Alaska. Jones Hotch is worried about what could happen if they interbreed with the wild stocks that coastal villages have depended on for centuries.
For the first time, we had a subsistence fisherman from the village catch salmon with great abnormalities, if I'm saying that word right, in regards to the shape and the color of the salmon. They haven't caught salmon like that before, and this is raising a great concern to our people. And we're wondering if that will affect not only our eating, but also the bald eagle and the brown bear and the bears in our area, you know, our wild animals in that area.
Bringing in infections into the waters, that's being shared with our natural stock. You know, all it takes is one fish to actually cause a catastrophe, and gosh, that I sure don't want to see that happen with our natural stock.
Well, we understand that Alaskans expect us to keep our salmon in our pens, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're working very hard in terms of rebuilding farms, and most importantly, training people so that salmon farms today are well run. And now we have trained aquaculture technicians working on all of our farms in a kind of a multidisciplinary team involving biologists and, of course, a veterinarian that specializes in fish health. And we're able to do things properly. I think done properly, salmon farming is not a bad thing for the environment.
A few years ago, environmental concerns caused British Columbia to prohibit new fish farms from operating. Recently, however, that moratorium was lifted.
The market is demanding newer and greater products, more of the fresh or the frozen fillets and other kinds of products that are more usable to the housewife across America and the world.
There you are. You're welcome.
Most consumers rank quality as the most important factor in selecting salmon. Currently, salmon does not have to be labeled farmed or wild. This is where you can help. Robert Loescher is an assemblyman for the Central Council of Tlingit and Haida.
But all of us here in this room and those in our communities should be sending telegrams to Governor Murkowski and to our legislature to say, we want you to invest in Alaska's marketing of fish.
The Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute markets Alaska's seafood worldwide and is funded by the state.
We are also asking for state general funds for salmon marketing to the tune of about $5 million. This is not something that is unusual. The salmon, or the legislature right now is appropriating money, general fund dollars to promote the tourism industry. We appropriate general fund dollars to promote the opening of ANWR so we can produce oil out of ANWR. We have not, however, provided general fund dollars for the promotion of Alaska salmon and Alaska seafood since I think about 1997.
What the fishermen here dream of is a consumer that wants quality and asks for wild Alaska salmon. That's why a law requiring farm-raised salmon to be labeled as such would help a lot. That's also why the people in Kake are changing the way they do business.
We've targeted the high value, good flesh quality seafood, and we've taken some steps to alleviate the problems that we've had with the poor flesh quality in composting some of that stuff, value adding the seafood that does come into the plant either through smoking or through adding some value through fletches or fillets. So we've tried to increase our value every step of the process.
Sam Jackson is president and CEO of Kake Tribal Corporation. Like many villages in Southeast, Kake was rocked by declining salmon prices. Then, true to their spirit, the people here regrouped and started again.
We're a seafood people. You know, we're a people from the sea. The Tlingit people have always produced from the open ocean. And we've been trying over the past years to make the operation pay for itself.
Kake Foods opened their doors in 1998, just up the shore from that original cannery.
But this is when we got the holiday.
When Heartbeat Alaska continues, we'll take a tour of the Kake Foods plant and meet some of the people that are turning the salmon industry around.
Hello, from Kake.
Heartbeat Alaska, we'll be right back.
It's hard to lose your best friend, especially when it's your son. To go from being the hero to the villain, I've become the snoop, the spy. I pry into his life. He says, I'll never treat my son like this. And I think, if you love him, you will.
Each week, Heartbeat Alaska brings you great stories from all over the state. And we couldn't do it without the generous support of Frontier Flying Service. Frontier gets our camera crews where they need to go. So whenever you see a Frontier plane, give them a wave. Say hi from Nuxet. You might just be on Heartbeat Alaska.
Frontier Flying Service, covering Alaska for over 50 years.
Enter the Millennium Hotel and enter a world apart, where friendly Alaskan hospitality sets the standard. A place of great taste and great tastes. A haven of relaxation and personal restoration. But at the end of the day, we don't usually serve milk and cookies. Although with 24-hour room service, we could.
The luxury of the Millennium Alaskan Hotel awaits you. Weekend rate starting at $89 per night. Call now to make your reservations.
Be sure to catch Heartbeat Alaska right here on ARCS.
The Tlingit Indians have always been warriors. Warriors that stood their ground. And now, the Indians of Kake, Alaska, when other seafood plants were closing down, they opened one up. Took a lot of courage to do that.
These are cohos.
This is Loren Jackson Jr. He's a production manager here at Kake Foods.
Basically just filleting the fish, obviously, and deboning it. That's what this machine over here does. And then we'll start cutting it and getting it ready for the smokehouse. We're just cutting it into strips and small little square chunks, which we call our strips and our nuggets. After we get it all the fish processed and cut into nuggets and strips, then they'll be brined overnight, about 13 to 15 hours. Just salt and brown sugar, you know, to what the natives around here use, just salt and brown sugar for their home smoked. So pretty traditional stuff.
In the summer, the Kake Foods plant is really hopping. But the plant also provides employment through the winter. Kake's Dungeness crab line did 8,000 pounds the first year and 400,000 the next. The coho salmon they are working on today was flash frozen last summer.
Well, these have coils in the top of them and fans.
Scott Browning is the factory manager here. He's one of a handful of experienced people Kake Foods handpicked to ensure a quality product.
It quick freezes the fish in 6 to 8 hours. It holds the freshness, keeps them fresher.
And the fish arrive at Kake Foods fresher.
The direct benefit of the location of Kake Foods Incorporated is it's right in central southeast Alaska. It's 2 hours from Chatham Strait. It's right outside Frederick Sound. It's right in Kiki Strait, where all the fisheries occur. And you know, if somebody doesn't sell to Kake Foods, they'll be running 5 hours to Petersburg or 10 hours to Juneau to deliver their product. And we feel that if we capture that species of salmon or species of crab or species of halibut or black cod, that we can maximize the quality of that product by minimizing the run time between the next processor down the road. So we feel we have a competitive advantage by our location.
But is it easy to get the product out?
Not really, no. You know, there's always a weather factor. For our smoked products, we need to fly it out, and, you know, just especially with our fresh product. And our frozen product, you know, it has to be shipped out on a barge, which, I don't know, I guess costs too much, you know. But, you know, that's life. Life on the rock, you know.
We definitely have some challenges. We have one small commuter airlines that comes into town. We fly a lot of product out. We have one shipping line, Alaska Marine Lines, that comes into town, and the ferry system. And what I think the state of Alaska needs to do is to look at the transportation infrastructure for the smaller communities in Alaska and try to maximize the value that they're producing on their products.
In other words, it's better to make smaller shipments that are worth more. That's why Kake Foods got into the roe business. High-quality roe, the eggs of the salmon, is worth a lot of money, especially on the Japanese market. But there is a tricky problem. The salmon with the highest quality roe typically have the lowest quality meat, and it's illegal to just dump the carcass after the roe is removed. The people in Kake looked around at the land they've used for centuries and found a solution. This is David James. He's peeling the cover back on one of Kake Foods' newest products.
Right here we have mulch. It's got sawdust from our logging division and mixed with our salmon carcasses from Kake Foods or Kake Fisheries. Took our waste products together and hopefully make something natural and organic. We can hit the natural foods markets, which is what we're aiming for. All right.
If you've ever made mulch for your backyard garden, you know it needs to be mixed up from time to time. But with about half a dozen rows of mulch, 4 foot high and 100 yards long, they needed something special. Kake Foods invested in this mulching machine. The 2-story tall machine straddles the rows and mixes them with special blades that hang down underneath. David is in charge of shipping the mulch. Because it has a long shelf life and doesn't need to be refrigerated, it can be shipped out by barge at a low cost.
I just got back, not too long ago, so I need a reminder of what's in here.
Back at the plant, Loren and his crew are just about to put the nuggets and strips into the smoker.
And we're taking the fish out of the brine after we cut it up, and we're wrapping it so we can smoke it. We smoke it for about 3 to 4 hours, just smoke, and then we start to cook it. So this will be a hot smoke, fully cooked, ready to eat product.
And over here is our actual oven. Yeah, it looks complicated, but it's really, really simple. And this is our sawdust hopper, which is primarily alder wood. And we have it set just enough to give it, feed it enough to give it the smoke that we want it to taste.
This summer, Kake Foods hopes to double the amount of seafood it moves through its plant. That means a lot more work for everybody, including David.
I've been started off, last year? I was working on the floor, worked my way up, and I learned how to do shipping, a little bit of sales, a little bit of composting, and everything's, So they make me work for my money, but I like it. It keeps me on my toes.
David was born here in Kake. Like Sam and Loren, he doesn't see the price collapse as the end of the salmon industry. To the people here, it's merely another transition. And if the past is any indication, Kake will no doubt lead the way in the new salmon economy.
David Dancer from Kake, Alaska, and Heartbeat Alaska will be right back.
Aviation. It's knowing how to make distances seem shorter. The art of buying you time. The business of bringing people together. And another reason to look up. Era Aviation. This is our sky.
Heartbeat Alaska recognizes Corporal Tyler Salmon, now serving in Iraq with the United States Marine Corps' 2nd Battalion Fox Company. Corporal Salmon enlisted with the Marines 3 years ago after graduating from Nenilchik High School. All his family and friends send greetings to Corporal Salmon and pray for his safe return at the conclusion of this conflict. Kenai Peninsula College, part of UAA, and Alaska Christian College, working together for the future.
For the first time, I really looked at my life like I held a mirror up to it, and I got to see who I really was.
An opportunity to challenge yourself.
Made me feel like I was at home.
Small classes designed for your success.
It's challenging, but it's not overwhelming.
A quality education in a rural environment.
We are definitely a family, and everything that comes with it.
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another Heartbeat Alaska Native News, Native Information, the premier Native news and information in America. Thank you all for joining us. And remember, when you go shopping, choose wild Alaska salmon, won't you? It's the best. God bless every one of you. We'll see you again next week.
To purchase a copy of this program, ask for Heartbeat number 41103. That's Heartbeat number 41103. And send your check or money order for $20 to Jeannie Green Productions, 6216 Old Seward Highway, Anchorage, Alaska, 99518. Or give us a call, 907-563-7440.
No, I've been working here since I was in high school. It's about 17. And I'm 23 now, so.
I love it. It's nice, it's quiet. You got a lot of hunting, fishing. You know, I like the nice quiet life because people here, they look out for each other. If something happens to somebody, the whole town pulls together to help out. I've lived in the cities, you know, if you fall on the side of the road, people just step right over you and keep going, which is why I love living here. Great people, great view.
Over the years, and it's getting better and better. We're getting better equipment, making more money. We went from, you know, maybe 3 to 4 employees during the year to, how many did we have last year? About 20, yeah. So it's getting a lot better. It's improving a lot. Proud to say that I work here and put out good products and getting recognition all over the place for it.
See ya.